Oh yeah. What's up guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Today's video was kind of just an impromptu thing. I want to talk about the importance of practicing how you're going to hunt. And also rechecking your bow's tune before you head out to the field. You know, back in, gosh, I guess April or May, you know, I got this thing all tuned up. I sighted in with my broadheads. They were flying right with my field tips. Everything was great. And yesterday I got some new broadheads and, you know, assumed everything was still good because all my field points were still shooting right on, you know, nothing seemed to move. And I screwed on my, one of my broadheads and just shot one at 40 yards and I barely hit the block target. Like I was like a foot to the right. And I thought, oh, well, maybe that was just me. So I backed up, literally shot the exact same hole on the next shot. Like it barely caught the corner of the block and actually stuck in the hay back there. And so I went and I shot through paper and I was like almost an entire inch tail left, which is crazy because I haven't moved anything. I haven't touched anything. Everything felt the same. But obviously something had stretched, something had moved a little bit. So it's really important to just realize that a bow is not like a rifle. I'm not gonna just sight this thing in and get it set and have it be that way for eternity. Things on bows move, you know, mainstring stretches, serving separates, cables stretch, yoke stretch. There's a lot of moving parts on a compound bow. And to keep all those things in sync consistently really requires somebody to, you know, check the tune on your bow every couple months. And I bet you'll be surprised at how often it's changing. And you know, generally with a field point, there's nothing there that's really gonna steer it, so you're not gonna see it on the target. You know, if it comes way out of tune, you might see the knock doing a little tailspin or something, but generally you're not gonna notice it with the field point. And if I had not, you know, our season opens here next Saturday, and I'm gonna be off elk hunting, and you know, if I'd had a bull at 40 yards and I'd have shot him like that, I'd have just hit no man's land, you know, back behind the last rib, and I'd have been lucky to catch a liver, or if he was facing the other direction, I would have, you know, just blown right through the front of his brisket, and that, you know, wouldn't have got him. After work today, I spent a little time retuning. You know, I swapped my top hats on the top. I got to a bullet hole, and one thing that I've noticed is don't just shoot the paper from like 3 feet or 5 feet away. Start at say 5 feet or 6 feet, then back up to 10 feet, then back up to 15 feet. And I think I'm all the way back here at almost 30 feet. And what I noticed is that at like 5 feet, I was getting a bullet hole. But when I got back here to, you know, 15, 20 feet, I was about 1/4 of an inch tail left, which causes your broadheads to plane to the right. And I've done a broadhead tuning video before where, you know, if you're getting a bullet hole through paper consistently, you know, you're gonna bump your rest towards the broadhead. And I know there's a lot of people who say, well, everything I've said, or I've read is said you're supposed to move it towards the field tip. And I mean, I hate to say it, but that's wrong. I've been doing this for a lot of years. You move your rest towards the broadhead, because when that arrow kicks, when the tail kicks left, it points the broadhead to the right, and then those blades catch wind and they plane to the right. If the tail kicks right, it's gonna plane to the left. So by moving my rest, just like if I was gonna alleviate a tail left tear out of the paper, I would move my rest to the right. It's the same thing with a broadhead. It's gonna straighten out that shaft so that those blades don't plane. So anyway, I got that figured out. So now what I'm doing, and I've only shot a couple arrows, but I'm trying to get redialed in at 20 with my field points. And then once I get that, then I'm gonna, you know, shoot my broadhead at the broadhead target here and see what it's doing. So I'm gonna shoot one here with just my field point. So I'm just a hair low. Just shoot another one, make sure that wasn't just me. One thing too that I will say is practice with a full quiver. Lots of people, you know, when they're shooting, they may not even have their quiver on, or as they shoot, they pull arrows out of their quiver. But the thing is, when you're hunting, most likely you're only gonna have one arrow out of your quiver that's on your bow. So you're gonna be shooting with more or less a full quiver, and you'd really be surprised at how much mass weight that adds to your bow. You know, 6 arrows and a quiver, you know, you're adding a good probably 15, 16 ounces at least to that side of the bow. And so you can see on my bow here, I actually have this little offset bracket on my, this is the Matthews Traverse, and you can see how it offsets my stabilizer so that when I get my quiver on there, my bow doesn't want to fall to that side. My bow stays really well balanced. But it's still amazing how much different the bow aims with that quiver on there. That shot felt a little better. But they're both, one's right at the bottom of the white and one is right below the white. The other thing I like to practice when I'm doing this is getting on the target quickly and executing fairly quickly. A lot of times when you're hunting, if it's not a controlled environment like a tree stand, you know, especially like elk hunting, I mean, those, you know, bull's moving through the trees, you might have a short little window. So if you have a really long process of getting into your anchor and shooting, you know, if you come in here like this and then you come down, 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 and then you anchor and come in, if that's how you practice, that's how you're gonna shoot when you're out there. So you wanna practice, you know, getting in, getting on target, and executing a shot. And actually that was my most rushed shot and it hit dead center. But, so I'm gonna go pull the arrows real quick and then I'm gonna shoot a broadhead and I'm gonna kind of show you, you know, what the difference is here. Okay, so I bumped my sight down just a touch. It actually made sense that I was hitting a little low because I think as I've been shooting, this sight wasn't locked down as tight as it could be, and my wheel had moved up a little bit. So I was actually more at like, you know, 17 or 18 instead of 20, but I got that locked in. So I'm gonna shoot one here at 20. Now if you're gonna shoot them at the same target, your broadhead and your field tip, always shoot your broadhead first because there is no faster way to just absolutely smoke an arrow than by running a broadhead down it. So if you shoot your field point and then your broadhead, chances are that's gonna end up really poorly for you. So I'm actually gonna shoot this at my field point at the bail and then my broadhead at the broadhead target. Yeah, still just a hair low. So let's see if the broadhead hits the same. As long as they're in the same spot, I'm okay. Even if they're both 5 inches low or 6 inches right or whatever it is, as long as they're next to each other or impacting the same spot, I'm okay with that. Because then it's just an issue of moving my sight. Smoked it. So let's go check that out. So there is my broadhead. You can see I'm happy with that. I mean, that's literally right on the orange. And that was my field point. Not real happy with that. So I'm actually gonna go shoot that field point again and make sure that that was just me and that my broadhead is still in the same spot. So let's walk back here and do that again. You know, broadhead and field tip stuff, people always say, you know, I hear it all the time, like, oh, well, do those broadheads shoot like my field tips do? And the thing is no broadhead is gonna shoot like your field point if your bow isn't tuned well. So you really need to take time, go get your bow tuned up. You know, a fixed blade broadhead is never going to shoot the same as a field point. If it wobbles, like when you spin the arrow and you screw it on and you spin the arrow, if there's a wobble, it's never gonna impact the same place twice. And B, it's never gonna shoot in the same place if you don't tune your bow. You know, if that arrow's coming out and kick in one way really bad or the other, those broadheads are gonna catch wind and then the vanes are gonna fight it and you're gonna just get this crazy flight. So I'm gonna shoot my field point again here. That one felt really good, and I'm pretty sure it's dead center. Let's go check it out. Yes. So, I felt really good about this shot, and it's an X. And the broadhead, as I showed you last time, I felt really good about that one too, and it's it's right on the little price tag I was aiming at. So, you know, I'm happy with that. I'm obviously gonna shoot this at 30 and 40 and make sure that it's tracking as well. If it's not, let's say I get out to 30 and I'm 2 inches right, and at 40 I'm 8 inches right, the solution to that is either I'm gonna bump my rest a tiny bit. And when I say a tiny bit, I literally mean like a 32nd of an inch, maybe a 16th of an inch. And then I'm gonna re-sight in with my field point and then do the same test. You know, a tiny little adjustment like that may not affect where it's hitting at 20 at all, but at the further distances, it's, you know, that half a degree or 1 degree that it brings the tail of that arrow in or out, it might affect its point of impact at further distances. So it's something to really pay attention to. You know, like I said, I get asked all the time, like, what can I do to get my broadheads to hit the same as my field points? I need a different broadhead, and guys will spend, you know, hundreds of dollars on different broadheads, and they all do the same thing because their bow isn't tuned. So it's usually the bow, not the broadhead. Don't cheap out on broadheads. Don't go to, you know, Walmart and buy the Allen broadheads for, you know, 3 of them for like 16 bucks or whatever. Buy good broadheads and they should all fly really well. So I'm gonna go set this up at 30 and 40 and we'll see if it does the same thing. Okay, so I just moved the target back to 30. Again, I'm gonna shoot a field point. I'm gonna shoot a field point just at the bail first, and then another one at the broadhead target. So here goes field point at the bail. Shot felt good. Now one at the broadhead target. Man, I had to tune like an 86 pound Matthews Monster 6 earlier today because I'm the only left-handed one, and this shoulder is feeling it. I don't know why anybody wants to pull 86 pounds for deer and elk. It's just silly. All right, let's go see what those look like. So, again, I want to hammer home the importance of practicing with the same setup you're hunting with. Don't shoot, you know, all year without a quiver and then just all of a sudden throw one on. Practice how you play. So, let's see what we did here. Ugh. First one, so this one was actually from earlier. I forgot to pull it. That was the one right there. I might reshoot that. But my broadhead, what I like is that it's perfectly in line. So I don't know, I'm maybe an inch low right there, barely. But it's perfectly in line with the field point. You know, when it comes to broadheads hitting lower than your field points, usually at 20, 30, 40, they're gonna fly right with them. Once you get out past that a little ways, there's a lot more drag with a broadhead, so it's really typical that they're gonna hit a little bit lower. So don't freak out and start moving your rest around because at 60 yards, you're 2 inches low with your broadhead. Just move your pin or go to a sight tape that's a little bit slower. You know, your 20, 30, 40 is probably gonna stay exactly the same, but your 50, 60, 70, all that is gonna spread out a little bit more. So that'll definitely help. So I'm gonna go double check some things and just make sure that that stupid shot here with my field point was just me and not the bow. But I'm pretty happy with this. I might fiddle with a little bit more, but you know, I just wanted to give you guys kind of a look into my routine doing this. Like I said, if I hadn't checked that, even though everything was perfect in April when I was turkey hunting, a lot changed. I mean, I was literally barely even coming close to hitting the target. So I'm really glad that I checked it, or I would have gone out there on Saturday and probably missed an animal and been really, really upset with myself. So if you have any questions, hit me up as usual. Instagram, as always, inside_out_precision. Feel free to comment, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really helps us out. And until next time, keep them in the middle.